Welcome to In Ruth's Kitchen with the Great British Bakes. Today we are making our signature cake, spice cake with pumpkin cream cheese frosting and candied hazelnuts. I did not win Star Baker today. So we're going to start with our hazelnuts by cooking some brown sugar with about 2 tablespoons of water, 1/4 a teaspoon cinnamon or more, measure with your heart here, and a little bit of salt. My original recipe did call for vanilla, and I guess I just forgot it here, so you can add some if you'd like or skip it. It tasted fine without it. We're going to cook that over medium heat and just stir constantly until everything is melted and combined. And I'm going to bring it to like not quite a simmer, but you can start to see maybe a couple bubbles forming down in there. And we're going to add about a cup of hazelnuts, or 140 grams. I wish these had been chopped up, but we're going with it here. And stir those until they are nice and coated and sticky, and then lay them out on a silpat or parchment covered baking sheet. And you want to make sure they're all laying out in one layer so that they're not going to clump together too much, and you can break them apart later. Okay, now we're going to sift together 2 3/4 cup, or about 340 grams of cake flour. And I don't normally do this for my cakes, but I wanted this to be like a super luxurious, fluffy, delicious cake. So I not only went out of my way to get cake flour, but I also sifted it. So a lot of sifting, not so great at this step. And then we're going to add some baking soda and baking powder. And salt. And we're just going to set that aside while we add our wet ingredients, so butter, lots of butter, and brown sugar. And we are going to cream those together. And we're going to add our eggs next, 3 of them. I'm breaking some rules here by going directly into the bowl. Do as I say, not as I do. Mix each of them in. And then we're going to add applesauce. I did 1.5 cups of applesauce. And I think that was a mistake. I think it's too much wet ingredients, so I would just do the 1 cup that I said. Making sure that I got all of it in there. Really didn't need to do that. Even the cake was good, but I didn't think it was necessary. And then we're going to add our spices. So we're going to do 1 tablespoon, or so you'll see me here, 3 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. And yep, see, I can't read my own directions, so this is me realizing that I'm supposed to use a tablespoon, not a teaspoon. And then some ground cloves. I'm just going to shake it in there because it's such a small amount. So measure that with your heart. And I believe this is 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, heaping teaspoon, and 1 teaspoon of cardamom, which should be coming next. There we go. Yeah, excuse me while I take the lid off of this one. I apparently did not do it, and it was a messy jar. It spilled all over when I opened it. Okay, so then we're going to add some vanilla extract. Measure this with your heart. Mine is homemade, so I just poured, some amount in there. And we're going to add our dry ingredients that we mixed together earlier in here. And we want to do this slowly. I promise you want to do it slowly, and you'll see why later. Wasn't I fantastic? Right. promise I will scrape the sides of this later. I just did not do that at this time because I'm trying to get all this flour to incorporate. And I'm getting a little bored. And so I speed it up and make a big mistake. Yep, there we go. Mistake number 1. Mistake number 2. And the moment of regret. All the cleaning. Look at all that flour that I lost. It's just stuck up there on the paddle and I'm not noticing. Also all over my machine and my shirt. So go me. 10 points for Hufflepuff. And we're gonna put this in some baking pans. These are 8-inch rounds with parchment paper and they're covered in flour and butter. And I'm finally noticing that not everything mixed in. I'm gonna fix that. Tasting it to make sure that it doesn't taste awful. And we're gonna fill them about halfway. The cake pan's about halfway with this, so it divides pretty evenly into these 2 cake pans. Sorry, this is not very exciting. Probably have sped this up a little bit more. Sorry. Editing Ruth could probably go back and edit this a little faster. Okay, so these are going in the oven at about 350, and it took me about 50 minutes to bake them. So I would do 375 and check back in about 30 to 35 minutes. Now we're gonna make our cream cheese frosting with 2 sticks of butter, 1 stick of butter here, sorry. 1 stick of butter and 1.5 packages of cream cheese. I have no idea how many grams this was. I was tired. I was not measuring things at this point, or not like weighing them to tell you how much they weigh. But it's 12 ounces. We are going to cream that together, and this should be room temperature. It makes it a lot easier to mix together. And also, I do this on a pretty fast speed because I think that helps it a little bit too. We're going to add some vanilla. Again, measure with your heart. Honestly, probably use more than a teaspoon here. Alright, so while all of that mixes together, yeah, make sure it gets off of the whip attachment because it does sometimes get stuck in there. Scrape it off of the sides. And now it is time to add our pumpkin. I don't remember what my recipe called for, but I didn't use that amount. I ended up just throwing this entire can into the frosting, and I have no regrets. So I think I was only supposed to do about that much. Stop right there. But then I was just like, you know what? This can is mostly gone. We're just gonna go for it. So all of that pumpkin right in the mixer. Whole can. 15-ounce can. And mix that together some more. All the mixing. Also slowly seeing the disaster that my kitchen is becoming. And scrape the sides. Scrape it better than I did. I promise you. Okay. I'm gonna add our powdered sugar. I kind of wish I had added more than what I wrote down here. So later, I do end up adding a little bit more. But I would say, you know, if you can add 5 cups, probably not gonna hurt it. I just wanted it something slightly stiffer than what I ended up with. Alright. I'm tasting it here, and I kind of didn't like the flavor. Like, it was just pumpkin and cream cheese, which is delicious, but it's not what I wanted. So I'm coming back with cinnamon, cloves, ginger, nutmeg, and allspice, which is what I use in my pumpkin pie. And we're just gonna do this to taste. I really eyeballed this. You can use just regular pumpkin spice blend, or, you know, measure this to your heart's content. I have no idea how much I put in there. I just went with the flow. Yeah. So, to taste, like the taste, but I did decide to add more powdered sugar here. Again, I only added another 1/4 cup, and I really think I could have used more. Okay, so now we are gonna taste it again, taste everything, and then scrape off the sides of the spatula, or of the whip, so that we can get everything into our bowl. And I'm gonna set this in the refrigerator while I wait for our cakes to finish baking and to cool off. And we're taking a knitting break while we wait for the cakes to finish baking. Also, my kitty came and hung out with me because he wanted some attention. Okay, so I did say these cooked for about 50 minutes. This is actually the first check. They are still wet. I think this was about 30 minutes. So they went back in, and I forgot to film the next time I checked them, but I promise they did come out of the oven and they were completely cooked through. So these are gonna cool off, and we are coming back after a nap to pull these cakes out, and look how beautifully they came out. So happy with that. And we're just gonna cut the top off. I used a little serrated knife here and just really went for it with my fingers right there. So yeah. Cut the top off of this one. And then I'm going to cut these 2 cakes in half because I wanted it to be more than 2 layers. So I ended up with 4 thin layers, which I actually really liked. I do kind of wish the layers had been thicker, but I liked that there was that nice dose of cream cheese frosting in the middle. So we are going to layer these together, cake and then cream cheese. This is not a very exciting procedure, so hopefully we're going to speed up this process soon, but we want to get this a nice, thick, delicious layer all over this first piece of cake. I don't know why I thought that was necessary. It was not necessary. Like, this is the same frosting that's going on the outside. So cake, frosting, cake, and I actually took the one that's out of the bottom because that last piece is the bottom piece, and I want that nice flat piece that was in the bottom of the pan to sit on top. Okay, and this is kind of where I think things fell apart and why I'm not getting Star Baker. Also, this frosting I think could have been thicker, which is why I think add more powdered sugar. So we're frosting it, covering all of this in delicious frosting. And I think I thought it was a little crooked, so I was trying to fix that and put some parchment paper under there. And then we're just gonna lather all of the sides with this frosting. And I really think that this is about where I should have stopped. This is a pretty rustic looking cake, but look how nice and evenly coated it is. I did not stop here. I decided to try to get this bench scraper like thing to try and even out the frosting on the top and sides. And honestly, I think I need practice here. It was not doing what I wanted. It was not. I'm just gonna put all of this frosting back on. Try to even it out again. Should have left it where it was. But ultimately, I ended up taking this cake to my family, and they really don't care how beautiful a cake is. My niece told me that it doesn't matter what your cake looks like, just what it tastes like. Hope I said that right. I'm putting it in a box because this cake is traveling with me. It is going on a journey. And then we are going to take our candied hazelnuts that we broke apart, and I'm just putting it in the shape of a little crescent here. This looked a little more decorative than just like throwing the hazelnuts on there, but also meant that people could have a piece of cake without hazelnuts if they didn't want any. I heard some complaints about hazelnuts, so just wanted to make sure it was good. And this is going to go sit in the fridge, and it actually traveled with me 3 hours after sitting in the fridge, and I think it looked pretty decent for having traveled 3 hours in the car. It tasted pretty good, but like I said, there were a couple things I would have done differently. But I mean, overall, decent cake. Thanks for watching and baking along with me. You can find me at all of these places. And have a good day.